one role that you've done that you wish like more people would talk about or like know?
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, so there's this show called Interviews with Monster Girls, where I play this little demi. Okay, a demi is a demi-human, and it's a mix between a human and a monster. I play a demi named Hikari. She is a mix between a vampire and a human, and she is the cutest little ragamuffin. Oh my God, I love her so much. But it is just the most wholesome show. It is so good, and I get to play off of one of my very best friends named Chris George, who is actually a director as well, and he voices the teacher character of the show who wants to learn more about demi-humans and starts interviewing them, hence Interviews with Monster Girls. And it's just so interesting and so good, and it's just really quirky and cute, and oh, it's so good. I wish more people knew about it, but it just flew under the radar completely flew under the radar. Another one is Don't Hurt Me, My Healer. Nobody knows that show. Nobody freaking knows that show, and it is so freaking funny. Oh my God, it's hysterical. It's really dry humor, and it's very unique humor for Japan. I was very shocked. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. This is like almost British type humor. It's very interesting. But it's me and Reagan Murdoch, who, if you don't know Reagan Murdoch, he voices Aki in Chainsaw Man, as well as tons of other things. He's just blown up. He's huge now. But most notably Aki in Chainsaw Man. And he basically voices, well, he thinks he's the straight man, but he's not. But it's basically a comedic duo voicing, like, playing off of each other. And I voice Carla, who is the healer, but she's a dark elf, so she just fails as a healer. It's so funny. It is hysterical. Don't Hurt Me, My Healer. It is so funny. She just jabs at him all the time, and he's like, why are you doing this to me? Why am I stuck with you? And she's like, because you fail at life, basically. And it's just like, it's so good. Like, the comedic timing is just witty and quick and clever. It's so good. But yeah, those two, I really wish more people knew about them. Really great question. I love talking about those. So yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, what was it like to do some of the like Honkai Star Rail song covers? Like,
Honkai Star Rail.
So like the White Knight cover.
Oh, the White Knight cover! Oh yeah! Okay. If you don't know, for Honkai Star Rail, basically the entire cast of Honkai Star Rail, led by Nicholas Lung, he basically spearheaded this. He was like, we need to get together, and there's this song that I love that is tied to Honkai Star Rail, and we should get together and we should do a cover of it. And he did all of the tracks and all of the backgrounds and sent a track to each member of the cast, and was like, here is your track, here is your track, here is your track, here is your track. And every single member of the cast recorded their track and sent it back to him, and he put it all together, and now there's this huge cast cover of the song White Knight, and it is so stunning. It is amazing. And like so many people on YouTube have like posted their reactions to it. It's crazy. But I actually have, my boyfriend is actually an engineer for Crunchyroll. And so we worked on my cover together. And it's so bad, I'm such a perfectionist. We must have recorded my section like 80 times. I was just like, no, that sucked, we have to do it again. Oh God, no, one more time. Oh God, that was so pitchy. Oh, one more time. Like, I must have made him like redo it like 80 times. And he was like, baby, that one was really good. And I was like, are you kidding? What are you talking about? It's awful. And I must have done it like 80 times. But eventually, we Frankensteined it like together to where I was like, this is acceptable, we may send it in. And so we, like, eventually I was like, okay, we can send in my track. And then Nicholas did a little bit of work on his end as well, and put some like fancy little, the magic, whatever, over it, and made it into what it is today. It's really good. I'm curious. One second. I have to know what it is currently sitting at.
A lot of those views are mine. It's like if I look top 5 listens to the song.
Yeah, when it first came out, it was like trending. It was like, oh my God, like top music, like up there with like big recording artists, like of like, because you know how YouTube has like number 1 in music, number 2 in music. It was like number 4 for like 2 days. It was crazy. I have no service in this room, but it's like in the millions of views. It's crazy. So yeah, it's called White Knight. You should check it out. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. Oh.
She just wants to know what your experience was working on it, and also, you have hopes that they'll bring it back and finish it.
I really do that because what happened? They stopped the manga for a while, but they just recently. That's it. What is it sitting at right now?
You mean view-wise?
Yes.
6.4 million.
6.4 million views. 3.4 million views, but still crazy amount. But so it's okay. But for Noragami, I was still in high school when I recorded my first season of that. So that was crazy. I was like, what I did was, for, you know how seniors, I don't know if that's the case here, but seniors, where I am, they get their last period of the day off. But what I did was I worked with my school to where I got my off period next to my lunch period. And so I would go, as soon as lunch started, I would leave campus and I would drive to Funimation and I would work for my lunch period and my off period. And then I would drive back to school and go back to school. And so I was able to work for those 2 hours every day of the week. Because we didn't work weekends. And so I had to work during the week, during the school week. And so that was what I did my entire senior year of high school. I was working every day of the week in between like school. But so that's what I was doing for Noragami season 1. It was recorded when I was still in high school. So that was interesting. I was actually the same age as Hiyori when I voiced Hiyori. But that show is so special to me. One of the other characters that voices Yukine is voiced by Micah Solusad, who is a very dear friend of mine. And it's really cool. A lot of the scenes where that are more emotional scenes. There was one where, do you remember when they get lighted? After they survive that, and she's just like, I'm just so glad we're all okay. And they start crying and they're just breaking down emotionally. I got to record first, and so I did my crying scene, and then Micah came in, and he told me later, he was like, when I heard Hiyori crying, I didn't hear Hiyori crying, I heard you crying, and that caused me to actually start crying, because I heard Brynn crying, and that is my friend. And it made me break down. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, I got to give a very realistic performance because of it. And that's very cool. And I was like, oh, well then you're welcome. So that was really awesome. But very, very special show to me. I absolutely love it. And I'm very proud of my performance as Hiyori. There are a lot of moments that I was like, oh, we just nailed that scene. It was so good and so solid. It's a really cool show. I love it so much. What was your other part of your question?
Just like as far as the human vacuum, like the
Oh yes, because they stopped doing the manga for a long time, but they just recently restarted it. And so I'm hoping that they'll be like, oh, our other shows have kind of reached their natural end, but we picked this one back up. Maybe it's kind of time that we revisit it. Because yeah, they kind of left it at a just dropped off the face of the earth point. And so I think that there's a strong possibility that that they might. I mean, it's just got so much potential. It was huge. It was huge when and very successful. I would be shocked if they didn't. I mean, it's just because it did really well, you know. And I don't see why they wouldn't. It's just got so much potential. I think that if they did, it would be very smart. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents. For what it's worth. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
How did you get into voice acting?
Excuse me, oh my God, that's so rude. Oh, yeah, like Kim Possible, I've been outed. I actually had no intention of going into voice acting whatsoever. I was gonna go to New York and I was gonna be a Broadway baby, yeah. I was going and I was auditioning for musical theater programs for college, one of which I actually went and I auditioned in Nashville. I was gonna try to go to a school in Nashville. That was one of the schools I auditioned for. I had a coach to help me with the audition process for musical theater programs because it's just a really weird process. Some auditions only last 2 minutes, and you only have 2 minutes to show them what you got, and it's intense. One day, I took her out to dinner just to say thank you for helping me and everything you're doing, and we got to talking about some of the work that she did in the area, local to where we lived. And she mentioned Funimation, and I was like, excuse me? What do you mean it's local? Because I just thought that all entertainment was either in New York or California. I don't know why, but I did. Thinking back on it, that doesn't make sense, but that's just how I thought. I don't know, but I did. And so I was like, what do you mean it's local? And she was like, yeah, it's here, it's in DFW. And she got this look on her face and she was like, you know, I think that could be a really good fit for you. You've got a really quirky voice. You do a lot of interesting things with it. And I was like, oh, sorry. And she was like, no, it's a good thing. And she really encouraged me. And she was like, you should go do their open call auditions. Because back then we were still doing open calls all the time. Now we do it very, very rarely, but back then we were doing it all the time. And so she really encouraged me, and I was like, okay, well, I'll do it. Because she was like, if for nothing else, audition experience. And that's always good. So I did. I got on their open call list, and it only took a couple months, because again, we were doing them all the time. And so, whoa, the dragon roars. And so I went and I did their open call auditions, which is basically like a week-long process where one director sees people in about 15-minute intervals, And you go in, and they have a male and a female character booklet of characters that have already been done. They've already been dubbed. And you choose 5, I believe, that show a range of what you can do with your voice. And so I went in, and I chose my 5. And I auditioned with Joel McDonald, who no longer works for Crunchyroll. He now works for Gearbox, which does the Borderlands series, which is very cool. And so I auditioned with Joel, and I did my 5, and he was like, take a look at this one. I want to hear you read for this. And so I was like, oh, I didn't look at this one. Oh, okay. So I did my best to do a cold reading. And then he was like, okay, cool. Now do this one. And then the next one was actually Black Star. And I was like, but that's a boy. And he was like, I know. And I was like, okay. And so I did my best. And he was like, all right, sweet, thank you. And I left thinking I just completely flubbed it, and I ruined my chances because I did not prepare myself to do what I needed to do, and I should have looked at every character in that booklet, and I didn't, and I failed, and I should have known better, and oh no, Brynn, you messed it up. And so I left, and a week later, Joel called me back in to audition for the show that he got for that season called Day Day Live. And if you don't know, I voice Kojiri in Day Day Live. And so I auditioned for Day Day Live, and one of the characters I read for was Kojiri, and I ended up getting it. And a week after that, I got called in to audition for Fairy Tale. One of the characters in the book was Melody, and I ended up getting that. And I was like, well, things have certainly taken a turn, oh my goodness. At that point, I had already been accepted into my school of choice, Oklahoma City University, who only takes 6 boys and 6 girls every year. That is it. And I was like, oh my God, I got in, so exciting. But what happened was, I talked to the head of this program at the school, and I was like, okay, so my plan is, I'm gonna go to school here, but then at the end of the day, every day, I'm gonna drive back to Texas, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work for Funimation, and then I'm gonna drive back at the end of my sessions, and I'm gonna drive back at night to go to school the next day. And he was like, let's think about this. Is this really realistic and safe? And I was like, well, it's my plan. And so he was like, I'm not gonna let one of my students do this. It's not safe, you're not gonna be healthy, it's gonna wear you down like nothing else. I'm sorry, I say no. And you're gonna have to choose Funimation or this program. And I was like, oh, S-H-I-T. And so he gave me the advice, you are doing what we are training our kids to do. Choose Funimation. And so I did. And I went to school somewhere local so that I could continue going to school and working at the same time. And so I ended up going somewhere local, and I would go to school during the day till about 3. My classes started really early, but it's what I had to do. You do what you do to do what you love. And then I went to Funimation, and then I came back to school for play practice because my program required me to audition for every play that came out, and I was getting cast in every play that came out. So my day ended at about 1 in the morning, and then I would have to get up the next day really early to go to classes again. And I was getting sick all the time, but again, you do what you do to do what you love. But so, yeah, that's how I got to where I am today, and now it's been over 10 years, and now I am considered a veteran, and that is really cool. So yeah, that's my story. That was way longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm sorry, I talked your ear off. Next question. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, least favorite. Oh, man. Ooh, can I spill the tea?
Yes.
Okay. Oh no. I'm not gonna say the show, and I'm not gonna say the director, but there was one director that no longer, they were literally a director for one season. But they were giving me line reads for every single line and having me redo reactions. Which, if you don't know what a reaction is, it's that's it. That's a reaction. They were having me redo reactions like 8 times. And I was like, what could be so wrong with my, what could be so wrong with it? Like, I'm like, really? It's that bad? Like, but it is considered an insult to do a line read, unless there's just no other way you could possibly get it across. Like, it is a sign of a bad director if they are constantly having to give line reads. Because they should be able to vocalize, this is what I'm looking for. Like, can you emphasize this word instead on your next read? Yeah, sure. Can you give a higher inflection on your next read for this one? Yeah, sure. But if you're going like, read it like this, ba 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 ba, then it's just like, okay, you think I'm stupid. Like it's a no-no. You don't do it unless it's just like, oh, we've played Ring Around the Rosie with this like 6 times. Can you do it this way? Then it's like, yes, okay, sure. But yeah, if you're having to do it like constantly, no, don't do that. It's just not nice. But yeah, they lasted 1 season because everyone was like, I'm gonna pull my hair out with this director. Oh my god, it's so bad. And they were constantly behind schedule because they were having to do that with every single person because they were getting it again because they didn't trust their actors. And that's just, no, don't do it. So yeah, they were constantly behind and they weren't getting their stuff turned in on time and they just didn't last. So yeah, the tea. Ooh. And then my favorites. Ooh, you asked me this earlier and I was like, that is basically like choose your favorite child. It's very hard. Oh man. Top 5. Okay, that's better. That's easier. Hiyori from Noragami. Historia from Attack on Titan. Oh, I have 3 left. No! Yotsuba from Quintessential Quintuplets. Hikari from Interviews with Monster Girls. Oh god, last one. No, I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't want to choose the last one. No, the last one is all of them. The last one is everybody. Because I can't. I don't no, I don't like it. I can't do it. It's just, and I'm also having to think back, like, through 10 years of work, and I'm like, I'm forgetting somebody. I've had 10 years of children. Like that's my womb. Like it's just like I'm forgetting someone, even if I love them so much. I'm gonna forget them. Like people come up and they're like, can you sign this? And I'm like, holy crap! Like, you know, like I forget that I voiced someone, and it's always so hard. They're like, can you put a quote? And I'm like, like, it's impossible. I'm like, that was 8 years ago. I don't know. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So no, I'm sorry. Like, I actually have in my little marker bag. People will sometimes bring up sticky notes with like quotes that they want. I'm like, can I keep this? Like, so I have little quotes that people have brought me over the years, and I'm like, oh good, you remember. So I just keep them, and I'm like, if someone's like, can you put a quote? I'm like, okay, I have one for this character. Like, I just have a little library of quotes in my little bag. I should have like a little like flip book of like, okay, here's this character. Do you want one of these? Like,
Maybe these are just.
yeah.
Maybe
Any
these
other?
are what's your favorite quote?
Oh yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Does it feel significantly different when you voice for a video game, and do they show you gameplay while you're voicing it?
It depends on the game. Like for example, Smite, no gameplay footage. Smite was weird. Same with Paladins. Smite and Paladins were kind of the same. That's just like, you just see the script, and it's like, okay, give me an A, B, and C of each thing. And so even for the reactions, you do an A, B, and C. And so it's like, light jumping sound. Hey, yeah. And you just do that, and then it's move on to the next one. It's really weird. But that's basically all it is. For Honkai Star Rail, some cues will have gameplay footage, some will not. Like for example, this last session I did for them, none of the cues had gameplay footage. It was all just script. And so we did do an A and B of each line, and the director would be like, okay, keep B, okay, keep A, keep B, keep B, keep A. You just go down the line and you do, say the line was, don't test me, woman. Don't test me, woman. Like, you just read it like, you just give an A and a B, next line, A and a B, next line, A and a B, and you just go down the line. And it's very, very different from anime, where you'll preview the scene that you're doing. You'll do like maybe 5 to 8 cues at a time, and you'll preview them first in Japanese. And for example, for Crunchyroll, you have beep, beep, beep. There's your line. Beep, beep, beep. There's your line. You have cues, as opposed to just go, 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 go. And so, and for that, you always have, you have the video for anime. And so another thing that's really hard with video game is if you don't have video, you have to kind of like be like, I wonder what their face is gonna look like when this is animated. Like, are they gonna be like, or are they gonna be like, because it's different. It makes a difference in your inflection. Whereas with anime, you're like, that's what they look like. So, because you don't want to go too over the top with your read. You don't want to be too like understated. But again, that's up to the director. They'll steer you in the right direction. But if you're just like too much all the time, then you might not get cast again. So you got to be careful. Great question. Thank you. Any others? Yes.
What was it like working as Riku on Assassination Classroom?
Oh, that was really interesting. I did not actually audition for that. I just got called in, and I had the part already. And I think the reason I got it was because they had heard me as Melody from Fairy Tale. If you listen to the two characters, as young Melody, not adult Melody, young Melody, she kind of talks like this too, and she's very blah, 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 blah. And when we first meet Ritsu, when she's in her like attack, like robotic self, it's very, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna kill you, sequence 87456, launching battleships now. Like she's very like that. But then she has her switch flipped and she turns into, hi everybody, today's the most beautiful day. Like, and so it was very cool to get to be like, oh, there we go. She has a kind of dichotomy to her. It's very interesting. And then she has so many different like personalities through the thing, like, because she's basically, and she's an app, and so like when she gets used for like, when they play that game, it's basically like capture the flag, basically. She's the app that like is helping them play the game, and like she's like almost like a Rambo style. It's very funny, but it's cool to get to like play a character that has different, almost essentially different skins to her. That was really cool. But I loved that she had that little switch flipped. It was very cool to have the challenge of keeping the same, essentially vocal cords, but having to have a different style of voice. Very cool. So yeah, thank you. Yes.
What was your favorite like moments when you voiced Astoria?
Oh man. I have two. One is when, oh man, is it okay if I say spoilers? Yes? Anybody object? Raise your hand. Okay, cool. One is when they're on the tower and Ymir has basically been like, I'm a Titan, you know, and so she's basically going around the tower and tearing it apart, and Historia's like, yeah, tear it apart, live for yourself, and she's just like lost it basically, and like they're trying to like get her off of the side of the tower, like, what are you doing, you're freaking crazy, and she's like, she's just lost it. It's very like, because up until then, Krista's been very like, you guys, let's stick together. Oh my god, I'm very soft. And this is the first time that we just see her like, she just snaps. She's just like, yeah, you're a bitch and you know it. And it's so funny. And it's just like, oh, like it's so funny. I love it. So that's one of them. The second one is when they're in like the crystal cavern and her dad is trying to basically, you know, and she's like, God, my ass, if it was such an honor to become him, why didn't you do it yourself? And she runs up and she goes to save Aaron and he's like, just leave me, I'm terrible. And she's like, smack. And I'm making this very comedic, but it's a very dramatic moment. And she's like, I don't care if I'm the worst girl that ever lived. I say, you know, screw humanity. Like, that whole speech, beautiful, beautiful. Love that speech, really cool. Very, very powerful Krista moment. And the music that is behind that speech, oh, it's such a bop. I freaking love that song. Oh, it's so good. I have it saved to my playlist on YouTube. It's very powerful. So those are my two favorite Krista moments. But one that absolutely rips my heart out is when we get to see her reading Ymir's note. That one kills me. It's not my favorite because, oh, thank you. It's not my favorite because it kills me, but I love it. It kills me. So yeah, that one. Oh yeah, sad. Okay. Next question. Yes.
Piggybacking on something you were saying earlier, could you talk about your views on typecasting?
Typecasting.
You
Yes.
hear the actors talk about, on one hand, you want to play different characters in different types of stories.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a certain amount of works that you were able to work on because I think the director offered you the part or had you audition for the part because he or she, you can knock that part out of the park.
Yeah.
Get that role done. So what are your views on being on typecasting in general for actors?
It's very interesting. I've found that for me, I definitely get typecast in Texas, and I don't in California. And what happened is, I believe that I get typecast as the, oh, hi, it's nice to meet you. I'm a sweet little honey bun. I'm a soft angel pie. You know, I get typecast as those. Or the spunky little, oh, I love today, woo! Like as the quirky baby girl, you know, because that's who I am, and that's how I present myself in real life. And so, it's very interesting. When I first started, I was so intimidated by everyone there because I was 17. And so I wanted to make myself as small as possible and as like non-threatening and just, so I talked like this to everyone I met and I was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And that's how I presented myself. Zero confidence at all because I did not feel like I belonged there yet. And so those were the characters I was booking, was the soft baby girls. And now I book the woo, like, because that's how I present myself now. But in California, because no one has actually met me, I can book like the mommies, and like there's one character that I play that speaks like this, and I also look like the quirky little like devious schemers, and like they talk like this and they blah 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 blah. But my typecast pool is much larger in California because no one knows how I actually am. And it's very interesting. And I feel like that happens a lot, that like for example, one of my friends is like goth mommy in real life, and she books the mommy characters, and she's typecast as those a lot. And it's a lot of people are typecast as how they actually present themselves. But if a studio has not met you in real life, you have a lot more opportunities as different characters in many different pools. It's very interesting. But I struggle to break the mold, like especially with directors who do not know me very well. They still think I'm little soft baby, and I am really struggling to break out of that mold. Like even now at Crunchyroll, who I've been working with for over 10 years, there are directors there that I am not completely comfortable being myself with yet. And so I still am like, hi, how are you? Are you having a good day? Oh, awesome. And so they think that's all I can do with my voice. But it's not true. So they only cast me as, and I'm like, I can scream, I can be mommy, I can be a boy, I can do this, but I'm not gonna get those opportunities until they hear it. And it's you know, it's unfortunate, but it's what it is. Oh, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Specifically with Attack on Titan, did you have you read the manga before? Did you just walk in and like, here's a what?
I did not. It seems to depend on the actor. Some of us choose to read ahead so that we can be prepared for those moments and like act into them. Others of us choose to react real time so that we can pull from the emotions that we're experiencing in that moment for our reads. I am one of those. And like for example, when Amir, spoilers, you didn't raise your hand, so I'm gonna say it. When she passes, I was like, what? Like I was devastated, and I used that for that moment, and like, because she doesn't have even a second to mourn. It's like, okay, back to business, queen, and she has to be like, all right, here we go, and like she has to just swallow her mourning and get back to queen business, and I like pulled that, and I feel like you can still hear like the sadness in my next like few lines, but like, yeah, I'm one of the ones that chooses to react real time to the events that I'm seeing on the screen, because I feel like if you read ahead, sometimes in your reads, you might be like foreshadowing some stuff that you're not supposed to know about yet. Like, and the director might be like, hey, you're hinting at this in your read, and you might have to redo the read. And so, yeah, I'm someone that chooses to react real time. Yeah, any others? We only have a few more minutes. If you are dying to ask a question, now's the time. Yes, my dear.
So, I don't know if anybody asked all of this out, but did you ever ask about bloopers, or if you ever was gonna read and you just couldn't get the line out for whatever
Oh my
reason?
God, all
It
the
just
time.
wasn't hitting.
All the freaking time.
Straight face.
Oh my god. It's so sad because we used to be able to like have blooper reels on DVDs. Do you remember those? They were so good. And like we used to be able to like leave bombs for people, like and they fit the flaps, and it was so funny. But now we can't do that anymore. It's so sad.
You know, they put the extra effort like Pixar used to animate their bloopers. Have you ever seen the Toy Story?
Yeah, it's so funny. But like we used to like be able to leave like lines that weren't the line, but they fit the flaps, and it was hysterical. But Japan thought we were making fun of the material, and they were like, why are you doing that? Because the humor just didn't translate, and we were like, no, it's not making fun, it's just like, isn't that hysterical that it fits the flaps? And they were like, no. And we were like, oh, you're right, it's not funny. So now we no longer can do that. It's a bummer. And so we don't have blooper reels anymore, and it's really sad, and I'm really sad about it. I know.
They were always so funny.
It was so good, it was so good.
It was a great way to see like voice actors or actors in general just being like themselves, like natural. It just made you feel like these are people too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we still do commentaries and stuff, so that's nice, but yeah, blooper reels were just on the spot, clever, funny, and some of them were just great. Did you have a question? Yeah.
What's my favorite part about playing Yotsuba?
Oh my gosh. I literally just got to step into the booth and be myself and just like unleash all of my crazy energy into a character, and it worked. And that's so nice. That's another one with Interviews with Monster Girls. That's another character I got to do that with, and it worked. And it's so cool when that happens. The script writers knew me, and they were like, Brynn is gonna nail this line. I'm gonna write this for this. She's gonna deliver it just how I want it to be, and it's gonna be perfect. And that's just so fun when everything just comes together. Like it's just the pieces click together, and it's great. And I had so much fun with it. She has so many great one-liners, and I love like being like, oh, this is the comedic timing that this line deserves. I understand this, here we go. And so it's so much fun to play with characters that are, she's, bless her heart, she's a ditz, but I love her. Thank you. but she means so well. She's trying. She's doing her best, and I love characters like that. She's just so funny. She has so many good one-liners. It's hysterical. She's so funny. I have how many? I have 11 figures of Yotsuba. I love her. She is so funny. I love her. Did someone else have a question? Someone else raised their hand. Was it you?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on like the blooper thing.
Yeah.
I heard from another voice actor that in Japan they don't do bloopers because
No.
they take their jobs like really seriously.
Yes.
I had no idea that they stopped you guys from
Mhm.
doing bloopers in the DVDs and stuff.
Yeah.
I've always loved bloopers in like anything.
I know, we did too. It was really sad.
It's just a cultural thing.
It was. It was just. It just didn't communicate well. We just couldn't. We couldn't explain that it's not us poking fun at their material. It's. Isn't it a funny coincidence that it just didn't translate? So. And we wanted to be like, okay, it's your stuff. We respect you. Please don't stop working with us. You know, like, so we stopped. But you know, it's still funny every now and then. So, you know, yes.
Have you ever met your Japanese voice actor?
No. And everybody has. Everybody's met their Japanese counterparts for at least one character, except for me. And I'm so bummed about it. But someday I will, and it'll be wonderful, and we'll take pictures, and we'll say each other's lines at each other, and it'll be great. But it has not yet been that day, but it'll come, and I'm looking forward to it. So. Yeah. But yeah, not yet. Any other questions? I think we have time for maybe 2 more, maybe, unless I talk for a long time. Yes.
Less about career and such, but more about this. Is this your first time to Tennessee, either for work or for...
No, I came once before for another con, and then before that, to visit a college. I came to visit Nashville for college, yeah. So I've been here twice before, yes. No, but me and Danny, when we got in last night, someone like mentioned like Dollywood, we both went, like we want to go so bad.
Comes every year and he says he always goes to Dollywood right in their head.
Wait, they have rides? I thought it was just like an experience. Like,
It's decorated for Christmas right now, and they have
Oh.
stores so you can buy clothes.
Okay, yeah, we have to go. Oh my god. Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, we're going. Okay. It's definitely on the list though. Okay. Any other I think last question maybe. Yes, last question. Anybody? No? Is that it? Did we do it?
Hey!
Okay, I release you from your earthly bonds. Good